Jesus among the mountain mystics and forgotten Christians of Persia. What if I told you that Jesus once walked the mountains of Persia, not in body perhaps, but in spirit, that in hidden caves and forgotten churches, in whispered legends and ancient scrolls he lived on, not as a Western savior but as a mystic, a wanderer, a breath on the wind? This is the story of Jesus in the shadows, among the mystics of the mountains and the forgotten Christians of Iran. Welcome to Mystic Jesus, the series where we uncover the many faces of Christ across cultures, continents, and centuries. In this episode, we journey to the Persian plateau, to rugged mountains, hidden monasteries, and mystical tales few have heard. Here, Jesus is not only the Son of Mary, he is the embodiment of divine silence, of resistance, of stillness. From the Sufi hermits, who saw him as the ultimate ascetic, to the Assyrian Christians who guarded his memory through centuries of fire and exile, to the legends that placed him among the clouds of Mount Savalon. This is Jesus as you've never seen him before. Chapter 1: The Mountain and the Mystery. Persia has always been a land of mountains, jagged, unforgiving, sublime. The Alborz range to the north, the Zagros to the west, ranges that have not only shaped geography, but consciousness. It was in these heights that mystics retreated to seek God. And among their whispered prayers, one name appeared again and again: Isa, the Arabic and Persian name for Jesus. But how did Jesus reach these peaks? To understand that, we must go back, not to the New Testament, but to the Silk Road. During the first centuries after Christ, missionaries, traders, and monks from the early Eastern churches traveled eastward. Nestorian Christians, members of what is often called the Church of the East, spread the gospel from Antioch to Ctesiphon, and onward to Persia, Bactria, even China. In the 3rd century, Persian Christians had established bishoprics in cities like Marv, Herat, and Ecbatana, and with them came stories, not always canonical, but rich with mystic flavor. Chapter 2: Jesus in the Caves. Far from the imperial centers, in places like the mountains of Azerbaijan and Kurdistan, Christian hermits carved out lives of silence and solitude. Some lived in caves. Others built small stone chapels tucked into high valleys. Here, Jesus was not preached in grand cathedrals. He was lived in the austerity of mountain air. One 12th century Armenian manuscript describes a monk who encountered a vision of Jesus wrapped in white, barefoot in the snow, speaking only a single word: patience. To these monks, Jesus was the original ascetic, a model of fasting, wandering, and communion with the unseen. This image resonated deeply with the Persian temperament, which already revered silence, withdrawal, and divine intimacy. Sufis would later echo these ideals, but here, centuries before Rumi, Christ had already taken up residence in the mountain heart. Chapter 3: The Forgotten Christians of Iran. Today, when most people think of Christianity in the Middle East, they think of places like Bethlehem or Antioch. But few know that Iran, modern-day Persia, has one of the oldest Christian heritages in the world. The Armenian Church, the Assyrian Church of the East, and even small communities of Chaldean Catholics have survived, sometimes barely, under Islamic rule. Take the monastery of Saint Thaddeus, known as Kara Kalisa. According to tradition, it was founded by one of the original apostles, Thaddeus, in the 1st century. Nestled in the mountains of West Azerbaijan province, the monastery has stood, crumbled, and been rebuilt over the centuries. Its black and white stonework tells a story of survival. Pilgrims still visit every year, many of them Armenian Christians from across Iran and the Caucasus. But in the echoes of their prayers, one can hear the memory of centuries of wars, conversions, exiles, and miracles. Among these believers, Jesus was not just a prophet. He was the anchor in exile. Chapter 4: Sufi Mirrors and Christian Shadows. Interestingly, the Christian Jesus found strange resonance among Persian Sufis. Writers like Al-Ghazali, Attar of Nishapur, and even Rumi spoke of Isa not only with reverence, but as a symbol of inner purity. Jesus, in their telling, was not simply a messenger of miracles, but a friend of the poor, a walker of the unseen path. One Sufi parable tells of Jesus meeting a group of wild animals in the forest. They gather around him without fear. When asked how they know not to attack, he replies, "They sense no violence in me." This Isa was a being of peace, not weakness, but the kind that breaks weapons by refusing to hold them. Another tale speaks of Jesus walking over a river without getting wet, not because of magic, but because of surrender. For the Sufis, Jesus was the embodiment of fana, self-annihilation in God. And this made him not just a Christian figure, but a universal symbol of the mystic path. So far, we've seen how Jesus emerged in the Persian imagination, not as a crucified king, but as a silent fire hidden in the mountain mists. We've walked with him through caves, met him in old Armenian manuscripts, and heard his name on the lips of wandering mystics. But the story doesn't end here. Chapter 5: Jesus in Village Memory and Oral Legend. While scholarly manuscripts and monastic records hold one side of the story, the other lives in oral tradition, stories passed down in remote villages, shepherd songs, and the quiet beliefs of those who lived too far from centers of power to be noticed. In the mountain villages of Lorestan, Kurdistan, and northern Iran, old women once whispered stories to their grandchildren, tales of a prophet who walked with animals, healed the sick with a glance, and disappeared into the fog after blessing the harvest. Some said he lived in a cave near their pasture. Others claimed he appeared only during storms to protect the weak or warn the unjust. In one local legend from the Talish region near the Caspian Sea, Isa appears during a famine. A starving boy finds him sitting beneath a fig tree, radiating light. Isa breaks a fig in half and hands it to the boy. When the child eats it, he feels full for a week. He returns to thank the man but finds only footprints and a soft wind. These folk tales rarely use the word Jesus in the Western sense. They simply say Hazrat Isa, the Holy Isa. And he is never boastful, never loud. He is a presence, a healer, a mystery. In many ways, this village Isa is closer to the ancient memory of Christ than the doctrinal figure we find in books. He moves through time like wind through mountain passes, unseen, yet unmistakable. Chapter 6: The Songs and Shadows of Old Churches. But not all memory is whispered. Some of it is sung. Among the Assyrian and Armenian Christian communities of Iran, old hymns still echo in forgotten dialects: Aramaic, Syriac, and Classical Armenian, languages once spoken in the courts of ancient empires and now barely surviving. One such hymn, still sung at the monastery of St. Thaddeus during the annual pilgrimage, refers to Jesus not as a triumphant king, but as a wanderer of sorrow, brother of the broken. Another line, roughly translated from Middle Persian Christian poetry, reads, He who owned nothing gave everything. He who fled the cities found the heart. This poetic Jesus aligns with the Sufi Isa, the outsider, the unseen, the beloved, who slips through grasping hands. In some Armenian folk traditions preserved in northwestern Iran, children are taught that Isa will return not from the heavens, but from the mountains. Why? Because the mountains are where truth hides from power. Chapter 7, Isa and the Mahdi, Echoes of the End. In Islamic eschatology, Jesus is not simply a prophet of the past. He is a presence of the future. Persian Muslims, especially among the mystic orders, held a belief that Isa would one day return, not alone, but as the companion of the Mahdi, the hidden Imam, the Redeemer of the world. In Shia thought the Mahdi is the 12th Imam, hidden in occultation, destined to reappear in the end times, and Jesus. He descends from the heavens to walk beside him. Together they fight injustice. Together they bring peace. This vision of Jesus not as a Christian savior but as a universal reconciler echoes through Persian poetry, Sufi visions, and even in village tales told by elders around mountain fires. In this version of the end, Jesus is not crucified, not risen, not merely ascended. He is returning. Chapter 8, The Persian Jesus. So who is the Persian Jesus? He is not confined to any one faith. He is not only Christian, not only Muslim. He is wind and flame, healer and wanderer, wisdom and waiting. He is the Isa of the mystics, the one who fasts on mountaintops and teaches with silence. He is the Yeshua of the Assyrians, the crucified and risen one buried deep in the chants of their liturgy. He is the prophet who returns to break swords, not wield them. In a land torn by centuries of conquest, theology, and power, Jesus survives. Not as dogma, not even as history, but as presence.